Hey, Spirits. This is Annie Elliott bringing you another episode of Hey, Spirits, the Washington Spirit Podcast. I have with me today, as always, Ella Brockway. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm tired. We had a late night. And Andre Carlisle, how are you?
I'm good. It was a late night. It was a goal-filled night, and I had a very busy week. This is one of my real work, my day job. It was hell week for us, and so yeah. But I'm feeling okay. I'm gonna try and keep the energy up because the Spirit's energy and Audi's energy deserves it.
Yeah, we're going to be too low key, and everyone's excited for this episode because we are talking about a 4-0 Spirit victory over the Kansas City Current, the mighty Kansas City Current. Sorry, everyone. I don't know how much respect we have to put on their name this season. I don't, but it was a fun game. What did you guys think?
It's fair to call them mighty. I mean, when you look at like the players on their roster, like they should be so much. Kansas City should be, and this isn't a Kansas City podcast, but that's like there are plenty of Kansas City podcasts that have a lot to digest on the other end of this game. But a result like this against any team in the NWSL is good, but like especially a team with the caliber of talent that Kansas City has, even if it's not like being reflected in the standings or results right now. Like the Current is still a very good team. They have other issues. Ultimately for the Spirit, this was a very good result. I said this on Blue Sky, but after the way the first two home games went this season, so the opener against Portland with the sellout crowd, but then the mostly flat performance, and then the draw against Utah, I believe that was in the midweek game. This kind of felt like the performance that we've been waiting for since the start of this season. And, the performance that met the moment, that met the sellout crowd, that met the high energy night at Audi, like that kind of met the expectations of what we had for this Spirit team this entering this season. And it's weird to say that a result like this got the season back on track after just 5 games. And also it's probably like too early to say that, not even knowing what will happen after this game. But I think this was one of those where if you follow through well, it can really like spark a big run going forward. I thought there were so many players up and down the lineup who had just like truly fantastic games, several of them who had the best games that they've had with the Spirit so far. And that's like not something you say every day. So that was really awesome. Thought the crowd was electric. A sellout of 19,215, which is like not something you see every day in the NWSL, and it's just awesome. And this was a great result, a great atmosphere. I'm excited to continue talking about it.
A sellout Friday night at 8 p.m. That's pretty damn good. It seems like that throughout the international break, people were excited to get back and watch the team, and it was really cool to see them rewarded with this sort of performance, which we've been kind of talking about. It feels like the XG, the combinations, the things that we're seeing develop felt like this was going to happen. Now, hopefully they didn't use all their goals up, but we felt like there was going to be an explosion at some point. Just didn't know when it was going to happen. The longer it didn't happen and the more it seemed like the lack of goals was allowing other teams to stay in, stay close, turn losses into draws, turn Spirit points into no points. Those sort of situations just kept on like bugging you in the back of your mind. Like, sure, you know that the performances are fine, but results still matter as well. And it's a weird balance. So we've been talking a lot about that in pressers with Adrian on the pod. We've been talking a lot about that. It's great to not have to talk about that, at least for 1 week, and great to know that the performance got the goals it deserved, and the reward was a clean sheet, a lot of goals, and 3 points.
Yeah, it's funny. This might actually be one of their lower XG totals of the season. Obviously, they scored 4 goals,
Yeah.
but it's just been so crazy the way they've been out attempting their actual goal total. And this one, I think it was around 2. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, results will vary based on your preferred XG tabulation, but 1.91 is what FOTMob have. I have from American Soccer Analysis 2.44, so they value some chances quite high, which we'll get into.
Absolutely. Well, let's get started with the starting 11. It was exactly the same as we saw against Bay FC. If it's not broke, don't fix it, I guess. We've got Sandy McKeever in goal, backline of Kate Wiesner, Tara Rudd, Lucia de Guglielmo, and Esme Morgan. Midfield of Rebecca Bernal, Leicy Santos, and Hal Hirschfeld, and then a front line of Trinity Rodman, celebrating her 100th cap. Congratulations. Rose Kwasi and Sofia Cantore. Any thoughts here? I mean, we're seeing the same lineups for once, which is unusual.
Ella, I'm so sad. Your lineup countdown of different lineups has not hit the same this year because it seems like they've tried and shout out to health as well. That's been a big factor in this. But yeah, they've been quite consistent. I think the only real thing you think about, especially if Gabby Carl's out, I mean there is a missing piece, so don't want to completely ignore that. But it sounds like the only real question lineup wise is Sophia Cantore or Gift Monday.
Yeah, I'd agree with what you said. I also, saw the lineup and saw that it was the same as it was for the BFC game right before the international break. And I almost went to tweet something of like, the Spirit repeated a lineup for the first time in, one game. And it took X amount of games. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to leave that bit in 2025. I'm a little too tired to like go back and search exactly how long it had taken to get a repeated lineup last year. I know it was a long time. But yeah, wasn't too surprised. I think this, as we've mentioned for the 5 games before this season, Cantore versus Monday, at least in the starting role, is a debate that I think will, or maybe not a debate, but like a question that we'll continue to watch as the season progresses. But I do think it was kind of, especially after how long it had taken for the Spirit. How long? It'd been 4 games, but how long, comparatively speaking, it had taken for the Spirit to get that first win. I think it made sense that they would roll with exactly what worked in the last game.
Yeah, I thought we might see Monday partly just because she hadn't traveled during the international window, had more time to work with the team. And also, she looked really good in Bay coming off the bench, scored that goal. So, I thought we might see her, but I think Sophia Cantore had a really good game. Probably one of her better games for the Spirit with just her hold up play and all that, even though she, didn't score, didn't have a crazy goal. But so obviously,
She
it
did
worked.
try.
She
I was
did.
going to say it wasn't without trying because she definitely did try.
I agree. All right, let's talk about some of the big moments. And the very first one, I think, is a goalkeeper moment, which was when Croy Bethune got the ball pretty close to the Spirit's goal area. Are you going to yell at me for saying the name Croy
How
Bethune?
dare you
How
say
dare
the
I?
name Croy Bethune on this podcast?
We're not allowed to talk about her anymore. We've
We're
been
not,
chastised thoroughly. So a little bit of confusion in the Spirit midfield early on. I think Hal Hirschfeld had a pass that didn't quite connect, and Croy retrieved it and got into a 1v1 situation with Sandy McKeever. I was pretty scared. We've seen Croy score in that situation many times before, but Sandy, waited, came out and got big in front of her, kind of did the splits and caught the ball between her legs and totally saved the goal. The first of a few big saves for her, I think. So I really enjoyed this one. What did you guys think?
Yeah, that save was cheered at Audi Field as if it were a goal. Like people were standing up and I almost had to like double check to make sure there wasn't like I saw the save happen, but there was kind of like a group, like everyone was like all around Sandy McKeever at the end. And I had to make sure that like the ball didn't accidentally roll in and we were like cheering the save still. Sandy McKeever said as much in her press conference that like her comments were along the line of my thoughts in that moment were don't let Croy score because she knew that Croy Bethune is a player who likes to go around the keeper to kind of score on those breaks. And, we saw that happen more than once when Croy Bethune was in DC, scoring those kind of goals where she'd get the ball just in front of the keeper and then do a sort of like little dummy move and then get around the keeper that way. So I think that was a huge moment. It was only in like the 14th minute, but it ended up being kind of like a game-changing moment, I think. And we'll talk like hopefully later on about Sandy McKeever's game on the whole. But to get a stop like that early in the game against a player who, is not just a key role on the opposing team, but also like Croy Bethune's return was a storyline coming into this game. So to get that moment so early in the game, I think was huge for Sandy, was huge for the Spirit.
Confidence is so important in this sport. I think before the break, we talked a lot about, or at least I talked a lot about confidence in front of goal. Goal scorers being able to see the ball going to the net breeds confidence. A confident striker will score a lot of goals, even the low quality ones, whereas an out of form, lacking confidence on the pitch striker will miss the big chances. Same sort of thing kind of happens with goalkeepers. The form is pretty important in terms of how you're feeling, your vibes, your confidence in yourself. Are you doing the right things, questioning yourself, those sorts of things. And it seems like the international break was huge for Sandy. I don't know if y'all saw it or if you haven't to find it, but Scotland's head coach, Melissa Andreatta, had a lot of glowing praise for Sandy McKeever's performances across their 2 games against Belgium. She called her unbelievable. She called her exceptional. She said she's a launch pad to win games because of all her pivotal saves in those games. It was, and I was looking up the games. It was a 0-0 draw and a 1-1 draw, but apparently it could have been a lot worse had not been for Sandy McKeever. And I think those sorts of things are so helpful, especially given the way that she had started. You know, she is the undisputed starter for the Washington Spirit right now. Aubrey Kingsbury is out on maternity leave. It's hers now. The performance has been up and down. You see some good things, and then you see some bad things, and you see some things that maybe let in a goal, and you see some things, and you're like, oh, that's unfortunate, or you see a save, and you're like, all right, I think she's got it now. This feels like more of what we wanted to see and hoped that we would see. And obviously, taking some time, which again, just 5 games into the season, but taking some time to get into it was huge. And I think the international break was massive for her confidence. It's not like she went there and then struggled, you know, playing with Scotland. It was a really good international break for her, and she came back in the exact same form, because this was a very good save and very key save too. You don't want really any player to score, but that early, and that player in particular could have raised a lot of questions and made Audi a lot more nervous than they were, given the fact that she actually did make that save. So yeah, this was huge. And I think, Annie, did you say it was a tone setting thing? I think so.
I think Ella might have said it.
My bad. I'm sorry. Ella, you said it.
We all agree that it was.
And I forgot.
It was. No, I agreed. An excellent game for her. I mean, people are already talking about, how good this game was.
Did you see a Sandy McKeever apology form floating around the internet?
I did. I saw Sandy McKeever will be starting over Aubrey next year. There's a lot of talk.
The takes are taken.
But no, definitely an excellent performance. And I think it started before this. We saw it in the later games of that first chunk. Just had a little rust to shake off there, clearly. We've talked a lot about how she hadn't started in a long time before this year. So I think she's seems fully informed now and really is deserving that starting spot. Like, excellent performance. I agree. All right. So after this, there's a lot of stuff happening. Soccer goes on. I was wondering if we wanted to talk about how they were playing or not, because I did find it interesting. And so maybe we will. Just because early on, I thought like, oh, wow, they're doing a lot of long balls overhead, which is not often what you want to see. But I found it interesting. Trinity and Sandy talked after the match, as did Adriana, about how like that was part of their game plan, was to avoid going through the middle, which has been a little bit of a weak area for them, progressing through the middle, but also a strength, a way that Kansas City can get turnovers is in that midfield. So they were really consciously using the wide channels and balls overhead to avoid it. And I think it was obviously a really successful strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that it shows an important versatility, especially in this league. I know the way that Adrian and the team prefer to play. They want to have the ball. They want to keep it on the ground. They want to move it through you, particularly the middle of the pitch as well. Control that space so that you have a lot of flexibility out wide and in the box. The worry had been that they were so set on doing that when they didn't really have the training time or the players to do that at the time. You know, we've talked a lot about how Hirschfeld and what her actual like capabilities are in midfield. It's not necessarily progressive passing. It's a lot of defensive work, which is really important. But you wonder if they're still going to keep trying to do the same thing. And this game showed no. If the other team is going to press really high, press really hard, well, we'll get the ball up the pitch, make it stick, and then turn you. And now we've got chances on goal and we got runners running. And I think that was really indicative in like the first goal as well. You could see how that really worked out. And I also like once the ball is there, the organization that happens in terms of the player movement around the ball was really good too. So I like the fact that they did that. I doubt they will do it a ton, because there will be times, and most of the time in most teams, they'll be able to pick their way through in possession. But if they can't, it is good, because other times we've seen them try and do this before and they don't win the ball. The ball doesn't stick. They don't find the right pass, the right channel, the right weight of pass, anything like that. And the ball comes right back on them. And then you're just defending. And eventually the ball goes in. Either it's a goofy goal or it's a banger or whatever, and you're down. But the fact that this was a game plan, they were comfortable doing it, and it worked, was really good to see.
Yeah, I think Kansas City's best chunk of the game was that like opening 15 minutes when they were just getting that high press that you mentioned going. They were putting a lot of those long balls were coming from Sandy McKeever, heaving it past midfield essentially because she was under so much pressure. I think once the Spirit kind of like once those first 15 minutes, honestly, the Croy Bethune save is kind of like a good marker of how things, of the moment that things started to change in that game, in this game. And I think, like you said, this conversation about this style of play transitions well into talking about that goal. And does someone want to talk about that goal? I can talk about that goal.
Either one of you, go ahead.
It was a Trinity Rodman assist on a Leicy Santos shot. So came in the 25th minute, and I had mentioned this on Blue Sky, but I had just been typing in my notes at this exact moment that this happened, that the Spirit had started, when those long balls were coming in, they were very weighted on the right side of the field. Rose Kawasi had made several nice runs through those first 20 minutes, but, it looked like and it felt like there was space for Kate Wiesner and Trinity Rodman specifically on that left side to sort of get more involved in the attack. And literally just as I was, writing that, Trinity Rodman got the ball on the lower left side of the field, sent in a beautiful cross, and Leicy Santos scored to put the Spirit up 1-0.
The thing I really liked about this, and Rodman talked about this afterwards as well, is her complimented Kate Wiesner and her movement in this. And I think it's so important. We're seeing this a lot across, the U.S. Women's National Team. I think we're seeing it a lot in club teams as well, is trying to get your fullbacks comfortable in interior spaces. And it's for stuff like this. When a player is there and they have the ball or they're receiving the ball, the defense has to react. Well, that means you can get 1v1 elsewhere. Either you go wide or maybe a diagonal run in the box or something. Like you have at least one defender committed to reacting to that fullback coming inside where they're not supposed to be. If the fullback stays wide, then the defense says, okay, good, you're over there. We don't really have to worry about you. So when an attacker comes, we'll have the marker go to the attacker. Coming inside means you change the numbers game a bit. And that's been really important. I think Giselle Thompson for the U.S. Women's National Team has been doing this a lot for Angel City. It's been really key. She's been extremely good this season. A lot of it has been her instincts and comfort on knowing when to get central and what to do when she's there. And this was a really good sign that Kate Wiesner can sort of do something similar. It was Trinity Rodman who played her that ball into, like, as she was running into the center of the pitch, and she just, carried it up, and Rodman continued her run, and then Kate played a really good pass to make sure that Rodman can get to it. And then we know Rodman has changed her game a bit to hit the low cross, try and find the space. And Leicy's late run was perfectly timed to be able to get on the end of that. And I think knowing what Rodman was going to do, knowing where she was going to put the ball, that's all stuff that happens on the training pitch. And so we saw Leicy score before the break with something similar, and we're seeing it again now. And I think that's really important because it's really hard to stop. I think you can freeze frame it from a defensive perspective and try to figure out what can you do. And yeah, get a body in front of Leicy Santos. But it's a late run. So what do? Do you open up and keep near her when she's not even in the frame yet? Though that gives you a lot of other space to maybe connect with Sofia Cantore or Rose Kawasi when she comes over, or anybody else that happens to run into the box. It could be how Hirsch felt. Or it could be Kate Wiesner since she was still central. So I love the fact that they're causing those sorts of problems and finding ways to capitalize on them.
Yeah, I mean, another smart thing on that, talk about Leicy's late run, is someone else made an earlier run, was already at the goal line to really draw the defenders. And so that gave Leicy that space to, get the ball, the line of her shot, and it wasn't so easily defended, which is stuff that they've been doing all season. And it's just in this game was clicking. I was just looking at I'm really surprised this is Rodman's first assist of the year. She's had so many of these crosses. But yeah, glad to see it. Obviously, she got a goal this game as well, which we'll talk about. And I think these are all things that she should have been doing already. There's no reason that all of these players shouldn't have scored before now. And I'm glad they finally are. Did you know my personal project is that I took over for one of our commenters who was tracking goals and assists at Audi Field. And Trinity Rodman is, by a full 4 goals now, full 4 assists, the number 1 ever assistant at Audi Field. She's assisted 15 goals there.
And that is DC United included.
Yes, and DC Power, although Power's not really on the top 10 for assists.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just think that's cool.
I love that.
Yeah, not to spoil what happens shortly, but Trinity Rodman also had a goal in this game. And I thought it was crazy. I saw an Opta stat this morning that since 2023, Trinity Rodman has the most regular season matches with a goal and an assist, which is crazy considering how much of last season and parts of 2024 that she missed as well. And this had been her first game since 2024 with a goal and an assist, but it is still just remarkable what she's been able to do. And did we mention this was also her 100th appearance? So yeah, bringing that all back together.
Do you want to talk about the goal?
Someone else can. I talked about the first one.
All right,
No,
all right.
Please do. Well, y'all talk about all the goals because I'm going to talk about Claudia Martinez's
That's
goal.
true. I mean, I could talk about this one because I think it's funny that it was the goalkeeper error, but it was 3 minutes after the same error. Lorena, I clearly was having an off night. There were a few issues there. And around the 45th minute, she dove to grab a ball. It slipped out of her hands and was loose in the box. Sofia Cantore was there and just kind of skied the chance a little bit. 3 minutes later, essentially the same thing happened. I don't know if it was a corner or just a cross from Kate Wiesner that Lorena came out and put her hands up. I don't know if she was trying to grab it or punch it, but it ended up very close to the goal. Trinity Rodman was there. Tara Rudd right off her shoulder, so Rodman got it and just a real easy shot with no one around her. But obviously one that they didn't make the first time, so great to get her on the scoreboard there.
This goal was funny because Rodman's reaction made it feel like to me that she was offside or that she had been flagged offside because at first she had no reaction. It was just like a casual kick across the line into an open net, and she just kind of stood there, and I was thinking, she's onside. Like, I didn't hear a whistle. This should count. And then she started doing her 5 different celebrations, which were amazing. But this also, real quick, because I want Ella to talk about this goal as well. This is the inverse of what I was talking about goalkeeping confidence. Lorena was exceptional last year. Like really, really good. Like one of the best goalkeepers in the world from across leagues last season. She was so good. It wasn't just the clean sheets, her only letting in 13 goals, which by the way, I think they've already let in 13 goals this season, where that's what they let in all of last season. And she was in great form. She made some spectacular saves. Things have changed. She's not as comfortable. They're not playing as well. They're not as organized. And so she's trying to do more or feeling a lot more pressure. And things like this are happening where she's missing a chance to get a hand on a ball or she's just dropping one on the goal line and conceding a goal. So yeah, this is like Sandy stock up, Lorena stock down, and it's all about confidence and what's around you and how supported you're feeling on the pitch.
Yeah, I just add that on the Rodman front, this is one of those games that like you can go down the list and you can even say it from like the team perspective that everyone had kind of been like waiting to have a game like this. And I think this is definitely true for Trinity Rodman as well. We also saw her like going for it defensively, at least in the early goings, in a way that we hadn't seen in a bit. She was kind of shaken up a bit after like a slide tackle on Temwa Chwenga early on. It looked like her knee got scraped up, but my first thought after seeing that tackle, other than like hope she's okay, was like, woof, I have not seen Trinity Rodman do that kind of thing in a while. And I think this was a really good game for her. Like it was obviously big to get both the goal and the assist, but to see her involved both defensively and on the attack was really exciting.
All right, that's the end of the half. Second half, Current decide maybe we do need to play with a defensive midfielder, but they didn't really get better, unfortunately, for them, not for the Spirit. And Spirit scored again in that 56th minute, pretty quick. Does either of you guys want to talk about that?
Andre's just like waiting to talk about the Claudia Martinez goal. He's like, anyone else can talk about these if they want to. Yeah, this is we've seen instances when the Spirit has like played really well played pretty well in a first half and then come out and either played equally well in the second half or kind of floundered. And we talk about that sort of like 10 to 15 minutes right after halftime of how important they were. And I think when you look at the statistics coming out of, or some of the numbers coming out of halftime, like it felt at points like the Spirit had like 2 more players out there than Kansas City did. So I was certainly very curious to see how they would be able to maintain that momentum. And like you mentioned, Danny, Kansas City brought on Rocky Rodriguez as a defensive mid in the beginning of the second half. But in the 56th minute, we got another beautiful team goal. And this one started with a pass from Hal Hirschfeld, who I think had kind of a shakier first half. So the fact that she was able to get sort of the, what do they used to call it, like a goal creating action tag on this one. She puts in a very nice ball to Sofia Cantore. And then when you watch it, it's pretty similar actually to how the first Leicy Santos goal happens in terms of being in the right position in the box, being able to tap in off of a low cross. And yeah, Spirit goes up 3-0. This is Leicy Santos's first brace with the Spirit. That was very exciting. And I think maybe here we should talk about how good of how fit and good is like an average adjective for it, because I think she maybe had her best game in a Spirit shirt since she's arrived in 2024. She just looked like phenomenal out there, whether it was scoring goals, which she clearly did. She had 2 of them, but just being a playmaker and playing such a key role alongside Hal Hirschfeld and Rebecca Bernal in disrupting that Kansas City midfield was just like phenomenal to watch.
Do you know who had the most ground duels won on the night?
Now I'm assuming it was Leicy.
It sure was. She had 11. That was 4 more than, from FOTMob numbers, it was 4 more than the second highest, which was Rebecca Bernal. She was scrappy. And so this is where I'm not going to rant, but for the people who have been upset about how much we've been talking about Croy Bethune, first of all, that is a very unique player. People know I've liked her since college. I've been watching her for a very long time. She tied a NWSL record in like, what, 2/3 of a season, her rookie season. Like, we know what the talent level is. And I understand people want to move on and talk about it. But the problem was that the Spirit hadn't quite moved on the pitch. We hadn't seen it. There was a gap. There was a hole. There was some midfield to attack linking problems. And we have to talk about those things. We have to be honest. We can't just ignore it. So I know that people were upset about how much we've been talking about Croy Bethune, but that was a player that was let go and not replaced. This is the best that I've seen Leicy Santos, and if Leicy Santos plays like this in the future, there will be no talking about Croy Bethune because this is the kind of thing that we need. It wasn't just the goals for me. Like Ella said, it's not just the goals. The goals are great. We need those. Those need to go in. She had a really bad miss before the break. Remember that Rose Kwasi, Trinity Rodman dummy, and then she somehow missed an open net. So she's getting into these positions regularly, but this was a full, well-rounded performance where the goals were there, excellent, but she also was able to recover the ball, win the ball in midfield, which we talked about going long and playing that way. It's really key that you have players that are able to win possession when the ball gets back on the ground. And that is something that she did really, really well in this game. So again, I will make an agreement with our listeners. If Leicy Santos plays like this, I will stop talking about Croy Bethune every podcast. That is my guarantee to you.
Well, I hope you can keep it, because I want her to keep playing like this. But no, I talked earlier about how the Spirit were trying to avoid really progressing through the midfield, but the Current didn't quite feel the same, but they were not able to, because yeah, Leicy and Rebe were insane. They were so fun to watch, the way they were just shouldering sometimes multiple defenders off a ball. Leicy, I mean, you kind of already talked about it, like some of the hold up play, like keeping the ball better than we've seen in the past. She wasn't here for the 2-week break. Adrienne says she was like destroyed by the travel and like physically exhausted. So I don't know how she was able to do it, but because she was out there playing like, you know, like she'd been in the gym all 2 weeks. So it was a lot of fun. You know, just hope we see more of it.
Yeah, Colombia was also coming off of a 3-game window, and I believe she played in at least all 3 of them. Yeah, she scored in one of them. But I thought she was phenomenal. I honestly, like, the goals were a highlight, but I thought like one of her best moments all game was like in the final like 10 minutes of this game. She had these 2 like cross field passes to Tamara Bolt on the break that I was like, I can't believe she's making that pass in the 85th minute of this game. And like sometimes if you have a 4-0 lead, like you see players settle down a little bit, but she was going for it, and like those long balls were working, and I was just like kind of in awe. And you also mentioned Bernal, Annie, and I thought I wanted to give a shout out. I know we have player shout outs later that we'll do too, but when we're talking about this midfield performance, I thought Bernal had her best game in a Spirit shirt so far as well. Her progressive movement in particular really stood out, and we've talked about how that has been like an area of struggle for the Spirit, and definitely going into this probably influenced how they were playing as well. But there were several moments where Bernal was able to like take the ball on the turn and just move it up the field, that she really looked good. And it looked like she was man marking Dabinia for a lot of the game too. And I think, one of the things about the current midfield is as like unbalanced as it can be, because sometimes they play like 4 players who could be all number 10s, like all in the same midfield. So even if it is unbalanced, like those are still some of the best playmakers in the league who are out there. But the Spirits midfield, I think, kept all of those players out of rhythm individually and then out of sync collectively. And that was just, a credit to all 3 of those midfielders for doing that.
Yeah, I think you nailed that. I mean, Kansas City plays narrow, but they play narrow because they have the technicians to play narrow. It hasn't really worked out if you look at their performances throughout the season, but they can, pop the ball around really well between each other, and eventually they'll break the line. And that's the concern with Timwa being in the lineup now, is that she's the automatic target. So if they're just keeping you chasing shadows in midfield, suddenly that ball is going to go behind the line, and good luck catching Timwa, and then you're in a bad way. That never really materialized, especially after the first 10 to 15 minutes. And it's just because of how aggressive they were. I think we've talked about this before. The one way that you can really limit the chances that a player like Chwenga and Barbara Banda have is just don't let them get the ball. And that's one of the things that they ended up doing, was just being so aggressive in midfield to win the ball, to be snappy, to win it back without fouling, so the game wasn't completely broken, so that when possession was won cleanly, they could keep the ball and go the other way. That's really, really important, being that aggressive and not fouling. And thank you, referee, for none of the unnecessary whistles, letting them play. I'm sure there were some, but for the most part, let them play. But yeah, I think that is super key. If both of those players are able to be that aggressive and win the ball and harass the other team's midfielders, it'll be great. Not many teams play as narrow as Kansas City, so obviously we'll have to see how this goes when teams, generate a bit more width. But I think for this and the problem that the Kansas City poses, this was huge.
I agree. There was one VAR check after some action in the Spirits goal area that nothing happened. We don't know exactly what they were looking at from watching at the stadium, but yes, no major fouling. Hal was actually asked in the mix zone about, she was a little bit of a yellow card queen in previous seasons. And she said that's something that she's worked on, is not overcommitting, not making the risky tackles when they're not necessary. So just thought that was interesting then because you brought it up. And yeah, I guess in this part of the game, there was one almost goal for Kansas City. They had a goal that was called offside. I think the Spirit left Michelle Cooper open in the box a few too many times. So that's something to just keep an eye on if they're listening.
Just clean that up in case André hasn't mentioned it. Just clean that up.
Just Michelle Cooper's there. I don't want to leave her alone.
Can I also just, this is more of a Kansas City and U.S. Women's National Team thought than it is a Washington Spirit thought. But I think the Allie Sentner number 9 experiment needs to end in both ways. She was a mile offside, and there was no reason for it. Normally you see a goal like that and you're like, damn, that's so good. And then you see the replay and you're like, why was she there? What was she doing? You're off. So you have to know you're offside. And she's got such a unique skill set. I love her as a player, but I just don't think from Utah to Kansas City to even the U.S. Women's National Team and Emma Hayes, they have figured out the best way to utilize her talent. But the number 9 ain't it. So sorry, just sidebar. Has nothing to do with the Spirit. It's just been on my heart.
Thank you. We'll let Chris Armas know if he's still employed.
Oh, by the way, Kansas City Current hate to see the Washington Spirit after a break, because the last time the Spirit did this to them was after a break. 4-1. This was a couple years ago. I think it was 2024 when they did this. Although I will say in that game was more of an anomaly, because I think the XG was barely over 1. Some had the Spirit's XG under 1. But yeah, it was 4 goals regardless. It was 4-1 in that game. This game, much more deserved goal output. You probably could say Kansas City deserved to have 1 goal, but again, that most of that was Croy Bethune's chance that Sandy McKeever saved. So yeah, oh no, I said Croy Bethune. I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna stop doing that. I'm doing that. But yeah, it's funny that this has happened to them twice with the Spirit.
But you know what's up next, Andre? It's the Claudia Martinez goal.
Okay, I feel like I should have got a sip of water for this one. as we all have kind of been like, this Claudia Martinez thing, when she's on the pitch, you're like, oh, okay, she's very active. She has a lot of good movement. You can't really tell. Is she playing like always a classic like winger? Is she an inside forward? Is she a number 9? Obviously, she's very young. She's 18 years old. Plenty of time to figure it out. But you see some little flashes of instincts, and it's weird to like pounce on those, but that's like all we have. Trust me, I have tried to track down several of her club games just to see, like, I don't care the level of competition. I just want to see like more of her on the pitch and what she does. And I've been unsuccessful. So I'm like reading into all the little movements that I see in her time coming off the bench. And this was one of those things where I was like, oh, there it is. That's what we're looking for. Because this was excellent. The entire sequence that leads to it. First of all, the clearance was great. You know, just getting the ball out, and Trinity Rodman just like pops the ball into an alley, like kind of behind her, just flips it. And Rose Kwasi is there to run onto it. So that was just really great from Trin, just recognition. Late in the game, she's done a lot of running already. Don't try to turn and dribble through 2 or 3 players or take the charge up all the way up the pitch yourself. Just keep the ball moving. And so she did, and Rose was able to get onto it. But when Rose gets onto it, you see, obviously, Kansas City's reacting. Their two center backs are charging backwards. Gabby Robinson is chasing Rose Kwasi, and I believe it's Kayla Sharples who is marking Claudia Martinez. Martinez is looking for the through ball. She's pointing, you know, give me the diagonal, like give me that ball. I'm going to cut diagonally across the center back. There's going to be space wide on the right. Like give me that through ball into that space, you know, on the right side of the box, the box they're attacking, and I'll do that. She realized Rose didn't really want to play that pass. Rose was starting to dribble inside. Martinez changes completely in the phase of play, which NWSL play happens very fast, especially in transition. Changes everything she was doing, and she just says, okay, well, I'm gonna just like cut my foot and plant and start going to the left. I'm gonna go to the center of the box. Opens up a ton of space because Kayla Sharples is like, hey, you were just going that direction. Now you're behind me and drifting farther away from me. Hard for a center back to turn their hips and track that. And she slows her run. So she doesn't just continue it, she slows it, which gives an easy pass. Just a simple pass for Rose to just be like ball straight into feet, ton of space. If you freeze frame it, she's like stops to receive the ball. And if you look at it, she has the ball in a ton of space that was completely created by a second decision in transition to change her run. That is like veteran stuff. That's the kind of stuff a vet does when they're like getting a little bit older and maybe have lost like a step or two. They say, okay, how can I find ways to manipulate a situation where I buy myself more space without having to do it by being faster than the defender? This was so smart by Claudia. And then when she gets the ball, she has this little wiggle where she cuts the ball like she's going to go to the left, and then she opens up to her right, which gets Sharples again off balance and creates a window for her to shoot through to her right. But Sharples is very good. She recovers and she blocks it. Again, instincts, reactions, immediate. Okay, fine. Then I'll just do a left-footed shot and I'll change the location that I'm shooting at. So it was like right across goal, and then suddenly had to change, replant, reposition herself. Now I'm shooting with my left foot across the goalkeeper into the net, and that's the shot that leaks through and gets there. She reacts so much quicker than everybody else on Kansas City to the second move. Like Sharples was with her for the first move once she got on the ball. And then when that was blocked, she was the one who reacted the quickest to the next phase of play and did not need any sort of extra touch or anything else. It was just left foot across the keeper, find your spot, pick your spot, hit your spot. It was absolutely incredible to see that entire phase of play happen, because it took so much awareness and so many like good instincts around the box and knowing what defenders are going to do and how to manipulate them. I was just so impressed by all of the decisions that she made. Like, okay, we're dealing with something very different here. Because I think we've seen a lot of players come out of college who have a lot of raw skills and are great and have to learn kind of these little ways to manipulate space, manipulate the ball, manipulate off the ball, do these sorts of things that give them better chances, especially in this league athletically. You're not going to be able to be more dominant than everybody else on the pitch. Like we've even seen Sarah Gordon battling Barbara Banda. No other center back exists like that in the world. You can't always outrun a center back in this league. And the fact that she manipulated so well this situation, yeah, blows my mind. Blows my mind. Incredible goal. Okay, now.
You made a promise. You said you were going to talk extensively about this goal, so we've had to give you the floor to do so. I'll be fast, but Adrian Gonzalez was like giddy when he was asked about Claudia Martinez in the press conference. He said, he was so impressed by how she had been adapting to the league, and like especially for a young player, for a young international player, there's so many different factors that like should make it harder than it seems to have been. Like, and I don't doubt that it's been, it's a big life change to come to the NWSL, but it is really just impressive how Claudia Martinez has been able to make the most of her entry into this league. And I think Gonzalez said something along the lines of like, I can't remember the exact phrase he used, but it was like nose for goal or smell for goal, something like that spoke on Claudia Martinez's instinct when it comes to getting in front of goal. And I think that was like the capper or like the topper on a very exciting night overall, like to be able to see her get that first goal out that might have been one of the loudest that Audi Field got all night was after that goal specifically. And yeah, I'm just so excited to watch her continue to develop in DC.
I want everybody listening to this to go back and find the highlight of this goal. Find the long version, like do the extended highlights on YouTube. Don't look at a little clip online, like get the extended, because throughout that entire break, as soon as she's within frame, you can see Martinez look at Rose, look at the defender, look at Rose, look at her defender. She does it like 5 times before she makes that move. She's just checking. Where are you? Where are you running? What's the situation? She's just checking the entire time. She's not just staring at Rose. She's not just staring at the space or darting towards the space. She's just checking, scanning, where are you? Updating that information. And then when she doesn't get the pass, she says, okay, well, now I know exactly what to do because my brain has recent information about where the defender is and I know how to get myself in space. I mean, it is like just watch her movements and watch her what she's looking at and how she reacts to everything that's going on. It is really cool stuff to see, and that's how like goals are created before the ball arrives. That kind of stuff is so important and so impressive that she's doing this already at 18 in a brand new league.
Yeah, so I don't have a whole lot to add to that, but I know like Ella already mentioned this late pass from Leicy, and I think that was to Tamara Bolt, started what was almost another goal for Claudia Martinez. Like, really great game for her to have this breakthrough and almost get a second goal there. So I think I saw that she was the first Paraguayan player to score in the NWSL. I think she's also the first to play, which would explain that. Yeah, really fun. I think we've talked about a lot of things. Do you guys have any other thoughts or player shout-outs?
I have one to start. It was very funny talking to Lucia Di Guglielmo in the mixed zone because someone asked her, like, how on earth do you even try to prepare for Temwa Chawinga? And then she just kind of like let her shoulders loose and was like, I don't know. But clearly she did know because it worked. Like, yeah, the rest of the current was not doing Chawinga many favors, but she finished with just 23 touches in 65 minutes, only 4 touches in the opposition box. And you just don't often see teams who are able to neutralize her in that way. Even, thinking back to that 2024 game, that like 4-1 game where the Spirit beat the current after the Olympic break, like the Spirit did a very nice job of neutralizing Chawinga in that game, and I think she still managed to score in that game. So she didn't register a shot. She had one chance around the 30th minute where she got free on the break, and then like 3 Spirit defenders just kind of crashed in on her, and then Sandy McKeever made another nice save. So credit to Lucia, credit to the whole Spirit backline, another credit to Esme Morgan. I think like the fact that Spirit, like, it's way too early to be making like best 11 defender of the year cases and stuff, but like Esme Morgan and Lucia Di Guglielmo have like made those cases through 6 games. Like they just have been on fire. So shout out to both of them.
Yeah, I second that as well. And I'm going to go to the other side and shout out Kate Wiesner, because I think Kate has been put in some interesting situations. Obviously had some U.S. Women's National Team looks, and then, dropped out of the last camp as well. Like, so not the Japan one, but the one prior to that. So like she's been around the fringes. Some of those performances haven't been great. Sometimes she's like struggled with injury and everything, but trying to see consistently what she can do on the pitch, when you see it, you're like, yep, that's why she's always there. That's why she's always in Emma Hayes' mind when it comes to how do I solve my left back problem. She has to be part of the solution at some point, whether it's for this cycle or next. She's really, really good. I thought she was so solid playing a role, combining with Trinity Rodman. Talked about her being comfortable, making inside runs, carrying the ball more centrally. That is really, really important and really key as well. I thought she had a really, really good game and really, really good in terms of her passing. We know she's got a very good left foot, but it was about a 79%, 80% pass accuracy, which was, I think, the most along the back line. Well, Esme Morgan had the highest, sorry. I think she only misplaced 4 passes, who was another shout out. Her passing from the back line is just tremendous. It remains to be like one of the key ways the Spirit are moving the ball forward. She is so important, and defensively she stood up as well. But yeah, I think that combination of Esme Morgan and Kate Wiesner is looking quite good as well on one side. So yeah, I think the entire back line probably deserves a shout out, but I wanted to call out Wiesner specifically.
My big shout out was going to be Bernal. I think we already talked about her. Ella, did you have somebody else to name?
I do.
Was it
And
Jose?
his name is Jose. I was waiting. He was my player shout out. So I think we have received multiple requests to talk about this on the podcast. So we have to talk about it on the podcast.
We do. For people who don't know, can you explain Jose, how he came to the team and what he means? Because I think most people are aware, but if you're not and you just like casually watch the Spirit and you see them just like dancing around with this like fake coyote, you're probably very confused. So let's just, for anybody who may not know.
The story as it goes is that when the Spirit was out training before the Bay FC game, right before the international break, the practice field that they were training on had a bunch of these like fake coyotes situated around it to kind of ward off any animals that would have been coming onto the practice field. And apparently, I think they said it was Rebecca Bernal who like first took interest in the fake coyotes out in San Jose. And she mentioned in the mix zone that like this whole thing is funny because she does not like animals. Like she is not a fan of animals. And yet here she is hoisting this fake coyote like up in front of the supporters section, carrying it through the mix zone, carrying it into the stadium before the game. So that happened in San Jose. Sometime during the international break, Halle Hirschfeld made a TikTok in which she was assembling this fake coyote that had been bought for the team by Haley Carter, the president of soccer ops. And now Jose the Coyote seems to have become a mascot. I believe he was in the supporter section for a little bit during the game on Friday. It was funny talking to Trinity Rodman and Sandy McKeever in the postgame about this because they were like, we did not know he was a thing until we saw Hal's TikTok, like when we got back from the international break, like the emergence of Jose developed while the international break was happening. So while a lot of players were off on international duty, but yeah, it seems to have taken on a life of its own. The players seem to really have a fun time with it. And I love a silly storyline like this in the beginning of a season or any time in the season, to be honest.
I love when this team is just silly. Like it makes me happy when they're silly and they're performing well and keeping things light. I mean, we saw after the game, Adrian was holding up Jose. Like it's a legit thing. They're all loving having Jose around. I know one season they were all obsessed with the song Thunderstruck. Like it's just like these little things just kind of happen, and it's a long season. You're around each other for a very long time. Things like this are just fun to get behind, and so I do love the nugget that it all happened with like the international players were gone. They came back and they're like, guess this is what we're doing now. So we love Jose as much as everybody else does. But I love these sorts of things. And yeah, Jose got a lot of camera time last night on the broadcast, which is very funny.
André, you're right that the international players have completely adopted Jose. Ella, did you say Trinity's quote? She basically said, I've actually never believed in a superstition more than this at this moment. Lucia de Guglielmo said, it's our teammate. Adrian said it's part of the family. So they're all completely bought in. I want to know if Rebecca Bernal takes it home at night and it sleeps in her apartment. I think it might. It doesn't sleep. I know that. It's plastic.
Jose needs a rest.
But, it's very funny.
I feel like we're like one win away from like Jose t-shirts hitting the market, kind of like that. I think this was like 3 or 4 years ago at this point. But remember the Andy Sullivan quote that ended up on a t-shirt?
Fit as
Fit as
hell.
hell. Yeah, fit as hell.
And then that became like the ethos of the season, like
Yeah.
things like that. Like they make a really long season really fun. So I've been
Wasn't
enjoying this.
the Ashley Hatch drawing. It was like the stick figure drawing.
That was the other one I was
Yeah,
thinking
they
of too.
became merch. Yeah.
When
I
the
think we'll
broadcast
see-
was out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we will probably see Jose merch soon. I think you're right. One more win and it's going to hit the stores.
All right, I think that's all we have for this match. We got to talk about the next one.
Sorry. I do want to give, I should have waited for Jose to be the last thing we talk about, so my bad. But I did want to once again spotlight Leicy Santos. I think we talked about her before, so I'm not going to go into all of that. But also Trinity Rodman, goal and assist, 100 games. We've talked about her journey this season specifically with her playing style, what she does and how she's trying to adapt her game. I think we're be more effective in a little bit of a different way, which I think is really important. And it's going to be something to watch the rest of her career. But this is like can she do this and still be Trinity Rodman? You know, can she make these changes in her game and still be so effective, unplayable at times, you know, have the impact that we're used to her having? And I think this was one of those games where you saw it, like the moments where she made things happen. She was there to make them happen, but she wasn't shouldering all of the defensive duties or ball progression duties or any of that. She was playing like a role within the team and playing very well. And I want to just continue to see how this develops, because I know it's a very difficult thing. We know what her instincts are on the pitch, but she can't do what she's been doing. And I think trying to find different ways to still have that impact. Games like this really help. So I want to give her a shout out.
I agree. And I think she's actually been performing well all season. I mean, plagued by the same finishing goals as everyone. If the team didn't have those, I think she would have a number of assists by now.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think
she has also missed the goal herself a couple times in some 1v1. So it has been an adventure.
She's missed a few big chances, and yeah, whatever. Happened to everybody, literally. But I agree with those shout outs. And now I'm going to forcibly wrap us up because I got to go. We've been talking for almost an hour. Up next, and this is another thing, we'll be back soon, I'm sure. Spirit have a game on Wednesday. This is the start of a 3-game week. Good start, but on Wednesday night, April 29th at 7 p.m. Come right after work. You don't have time to go home. Audi Field. This will be, oddly, the last time they play racing this season. Scheduling's pretty weird this year.
Very weird. Anything
real quick about that game or racing?
Just set pieces of Sears and chaos. That's what Racing Louisville does. They just beat Orlando doing that. That was a really good game by them. They kind of did to Orlando what they want to do and got the goals in the ways that they want to get goals. So it will be a very different test than what Kansas City does. Will probably be quite a physical game. If there's one nitpick I have for the Kansas City game, I think there was maybe, given the scoreline, maybe could have got some players out of the game earlier than he did. That's maybe the only nitpick that I have, but obviously you respect the opponent. It would not have surprised anybody if, given the attackers that Kansas City have, they suddenly score a couple and then things get weird. So I kind of get it, especially when you need 3 points. But yeah, this is a tough stretch, and this team in particular up next, it's going to be a physical match. So yeah, be it Audi, pack it. Probably won't get 19,000 on a Wednesday night, but let's try and get somewhere close to that. That'd be that.
All right, we'll see everyone there and probably talk to you after. Bye.